What is the origin of the world system? God created the planet, put people on it. He said it was good. And we know that sin entered into all of that. But what caused this a world system, an organization of humanity and such? What caused that to all be contrary to God? Where did it originate from? Well, we're going to take a look at that today. I'm Pastor Tim Holscher, and we are looking at the ministry of the Spirit, that He dwells in us as believers in particular right now. And as He dwells in us and does a work with us, He distinguishes us from this world system, and we'll be looking more at that in our studies to come. But Jesus actually mentions when this world system started, and I think it's something to take note of. I found this very helpful many years ago in then chasing this down in the book of Genesis, which we're going to do today. So in Luke 11 and verse 49, it says, "For this reason also the wisdom of God said, I will send to them prophets and apostles. Some of them they will kill, some of them they will persecute, so that the blood of the prophets shed since or from the foundation of the world." There it is, the foundation of the world. He's not talking about the creation of the universe, not talking about the creation of the planet. He's talking about the foundation of this system, may be charged against them. Now, when is that foundation? From the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who was killed between the altar and the house of God. The world system was founded from the time that Abel was killed. In other words, there are, from what we can tell reading Genesis, there are four people that we know of that are in existence when this happens. There may have been others, brothers or sisters at that time, not that we know of, but they may have existed at that time. But when when Cain becomes angry with his brother, despondent because God looked with favor on Abel's sacrifice and didn't show any regard whatsoever to Cain's sacrifice, he becomes angry. In a response to God coming and talking to him, he goes and kills his brother, as though, there's your sacrifice. You want a sacrifice? I gave you a sacrifice. Because that's the way people act, right? We all kind of know people that are like, oh, you wanted that done? Well, there, I did it. And what we did was we did something to spite them that sort of fulfilled what they wanted. And that's what Cain did with his brother Abel, shed his blood. And if we go over to the book of Genesis chapter 4, in verse 17, it says, "And Cain knew his wife. She conceived and gave birth to Enoch. And he," first thing, and actually, I should go back up here because verse 16 is equally important. "Then Cain, after God addresses him, after all this has happened, Cain went out from the presence of the Lord." He went out from the presence of the Lord. In other words, what you're going to read in the following verses is what mankind does when they walk away from God and say, enough of you. And I think this is important because there's a lot of people that think that people in the world are out there really looking for God, and yet the scriptures indicate, and I could show you more than just one or two verses that indicate man's not looking for God. In fact, if the Bible says anything, man's trying to hide from God and ignore God and expunge God from his thinking. That's what man wants. He doesn't really want to know God. He wants to know a God he can control. He wants to know God the kind of God he'd like, but he doesn't want the biblical God. And so he went out from the presence of the Lord, and one of the first things he has a wife. It has to be a sister. I mean, there's just not really another option going on in here. And that wasn't a problem at that time, so we're not even going to handle that. But then it says, and he built a city. God planted a garden, and that's where he put Adam and Eve. He made Adam and Eve people that cared for or tilled the ground, and Cain was tiller of the ground, and there was nothing wrong with that. But God cursed Cain in that regard because of what he did. And as a result, Cain says, fine, I'm going to go build a city. And was it a city like we think of a city today? Well, probably not, but it was something that was a city and not a little farm village, not a little farmhouse. And he built a city, and he called the name of the city Enoch, after the name of his son. So we have here the beginning of, for lack of a better term, urbanization. Get humanity together and keep humanity together. This is what the world system does. It doesn't want people scattered. It wants people together. And this comes up many times throughout history, that you have humanity trying to amass themselves together against God. We go on down here in the context, and one of the things, eventually there's a descendant of Cain. His name is Lamech, and he took to himself 2 wives. How many wives did God give Adam? 1. And she actually was an equal to Adam in the way that God created them and designed them. But now we really have this different kind of a relationship, and Lamech takes 2 wives, not something that God ever planned. That's not the way God designed it. Having multiple wives, contrary to God's plan. I know you can go through the Old Testament and you've got men like Jacob that have multiple wives, and you've got King David that has multiple wives, and his son Solomon that multiplied many wives. But that was never God's plan. You need to understand that. That is a reflection of man's sinful nature. God didn't design it that way. So that's one of these things that happens within the world system. It's the multiplication of wives. And then we go down there, and one of the wives, Ada, gives birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. Why does he tell us that? Why does he tell us what this boy did? Because why is there a purpose for keeping livestock at this time? What's happening? You're really having, in fact, one of the interesting things about this, the Hebrew word for livestock, and the letters, what we call the radicals in Hebrew, this word for livestock is exactly the same set of radicals that are used for the idea of purchasing and selling. Because what were they doing with livestock? It's the beginning of commerce. Again, that's not the way God set it up, but that's the way mankind does under the control or design of Satan. Is you have people that have certain products, and they then sell these things to other people in some sense. Now, you might think, I'm sticking my neck out on this, but you can go look at this Hebrew word. You can go pull this up. You can look this up online, look up an online Bible, do a little work on this word, and you can do that. You don't have to know Hebrew because most tools today are available. And you can see that the letters you're talking about the same thing. And then his brother's name was Jubal, and he was the father of those who play the lyre and the pipe. Again, why does he tell us what they're doing here? Because he's showing you mankind developing culture outside of the realm of God. And culture is a big thing, because when you live in culture, culture tries to control. It tries to conform. It's what it does. I've listened to people say culture is neutral, and that's baloney. Biblically, culture controls and confines. You live in a culture, whether it's a subset of a larger culture, that subset, a gang, your friends at the social club, they conform you to a certain idea of what someone in that group is supposed to be. And one of the things that comes as part of this culture is the lyre and the pipe. What is that? That's music. It's the development of music outside of God. I'm not trying to say here that as Christians, the only music you should listen to are songs about Jesus or about God, but you just need to understand music is a strong way to control people, to make people think. And you know, in churches, we've got songs we sing. I won't sing because they're saying things that aren't true about God. I'm not going to sing that song no matter how popular or how cool that is, or even that's true with, I'm just making it clear because I don't want you to think it's modern song. That's even true with what are considered some of the tried and true hymns of the faith. Even some of them say some things that are not right. Music is powerful, and there's people that can cite and remember a hymn, but they cannot remember what the Bible actually says on a topic. Then it says, as for Zillah, this is the other wife, she gave birth to Tubal-Cain, the forger of all implements of bronze and iron. Again, what's the importance of that? Now you're having what we would call industry. Now they're actually doing something, making some efforts to do what? To make their life easier and simpler. Easier and simpler to reduce the effects of the curse that Adam brought on the ground, by which he is going to eat by the sweat of his brow. Let's try to remove that. And then the last thing it says, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Now, why does it tell us that her name is Naamah? What's important about that? Let me just pull this up over here on the side for you for just a minute. Naamah. Do you see what the definition down here is? Let me blow it up just so you can see it. It means pleasant. Or, to understand pleasant, that which is beautiful or pleasing to the eyes. You women, Do you realize? It's culture that says you need to look a certain way. It's culture that says your hair needs to be a certain length or a certain style, or that your makeup needs to be a certain way, or you need to wear certain clothes, whatever it might be. And it varies from culture to culture. But it's culture that sets that. It's part of the world system. We do not value women in the way that God designed Eve to be a counterpart to Adam, to be his equal. We value women in terms of their beauty. Just really think in our culture how often the emphasis is placed on how a woman looks and not really on how she contributes, how she serves, how she works with us. I think my wife is beautiful, but I'm going to guarantee you the ultimate thing that attracted me to my wife was her character, her attitude towards things. That had far more attraction for me than just how she looks. Not saying I didn't think she was good looking, just to be clear. But it's, again, what our culture does. And then there's a last thing that he says down here is that Lamech said to his wives Adah and Zillah, "Listen to my voice, you wives of Lamech. Give heed to my speech, for I have killed a man for wounding me." That word wound means he hit me and gave me a bruise. "And I killed a boy for striking me." And that word strike might mean that he took like a stick or a pole and whacked him or something like this. But he killed him. Now, murder is a work of the flesh, but within the world system, there seems to be justification for it. It's not just that that's wrong. It's not, I can justify killing somebody. Why? Well, because they did something against me. It hurt me. And we can justify killing people in that kind of a context. All of this, then, just to help you maybe think, what is the world system? It's urbanization. It's commerce. It's music and arts. It's industry. It's a focus on beauty externally. And it's a focus on a vengeance. It's a focus on you getting what's coming to you. Meaning you can take it out of those other people that have hurt you or wronged you. All of this is part of the world system. And do we as Christians get caught up and wrapped up in that? You listen to any of that and think, oh man, I'm really wrapped up. Yeah, pay attention to that, because that's part of the world system. And when we are wrapped up in those things, which we can easily do, guess what? You're not really enjoying the ministry of the Spirit in your life. He's still there, still trying to work, still doing work. But you are missing out on really enjoying the benefit of that. We don't want you to do that. We don't want you to miss out on that. We want you to be able to focus on who you are in Christ as part of the Lord, somebody that's really not a part of this system, be able to live above and beyond it. And when you do that, go on and have a good day in the Lord. Thank you for joining me today.